He was seconds away from a career-defining top-3 finish. Then, in the blink of an eye, NASCAR ripped it away and sent him to the back of the lead lap instead. No protest, no blow-up, no war with the sanctioning body. Bubba Wallace just accepted it, and that reaction might be more shocking than the penalty itself. Sunday at Atlanta Motor Speedway, on the race's final lap, Bubba Wallace crossed below the out-of-bounds line while battling for position. NASCAR's rulebook doesn't care about intent, it cares about outcome. Wallace had been running second. After race control reviewed the move, he was dropped to the tail of the lead lap. That single ruling didn't just cost him a top finish, it reshaped his entire playoff picture heading into the final stretch of the regular season. Here's the part that stings. Wallace didn't just lose a few spots on the leaderboard, he lost real playoff cushion. Before the penalty, he was on track to sit roughly 83 points above the cut line. After it, he's down to just 55. That's not a cosmetic hit. That's the kind of swing that can be the difference between a comfortable final month of racing and a white-knuckle points battle in September. And there's a wrinkle that makes this even messier. Wallace has argued that even though he technically dipped below the boundary, he didn't actually end up ahead of where he otherwise would have finished, largely because he got shuffled back again right before the checkered flag. In his mind, the infraction happened, but the competitive advantage it was supposed to prevent never really materialized. NASCAR didn't see it that way. Once the line is crossed, the call is made, regardless of what happens in the seconds after. This is where it gets interesting for anyone who actually understands how these rulings work. NASCAR's out-of-bounds rule exists for one reason: to stop drivers from manufacturing positions by leaving the racing surface. It's a zero-tolerance, data-driven call. There's no committee vote, no gray area, no "let's talk about intent." The sensors either show you cross the line or they don't. Strategically, this is a brutal lesson for Wallace and his team. In modern NASCAR, the margin for error at superspeedway-style tracks like Atlanta is razor-thin. Drivers are pushed into positions where staying in bounds and staying competitive can conflict in real time, and by the time you realize you're about to cross the threshold, it's often too late to correct course. What makes this situation particularly dangerous from a season strategy standpoint is the timing. This isn't a penalty absorbed early in the year when there's room to recover. This lands deep enough into the schedule that every point suddenly carries playoff weight. The bigger question is whether this exposes a flaw in Wallace's late race decision-making under pressure, or whether it's simply the unavoidable cost of racing hard for position with the checkered flag in sight. Elite drivers take calculated risks. Sometimes the math works, this time it didn't. And credit where it's due. His response tells you something about where he is mentally as a competitor. Instead of spiraling into a public fight with NASCAR officials, he and crew chief Charles Denike went through the proper channel, made their case at the hauler, and when the data didn't back them up, they let it go. That's a veteran approach, not a rookie meltdown. Naturally, the fan base is split right down the middle. One side is applauding Wallace for taking accountability instead of turning this into a media circus, pointing out that plenty of drivers were to spend a full week on social media blasting the officiating. The other side is questioning whether the rule itself is too rigid, arguing that a driver actively trying to give back an advantage should count for something in the review process. Even fellow competitors have weighed in on the broader debate about whether this exact rule needs a second look, which tells you this conversation isn't going away anytime soon. Best case, Wallace channels his frustration into his statement stretch of racing. He locks up his playoff spot with room to spare, and this Atlanta penalty becomes a footnote, the moment that lit a fire instead of derailing a season. Worst case, the tighter cushion becomes a real liability. One more bad break, one more mechanical issue, one more late race incident, and Wallace finds himself sweating out the final regular season race just to make the postseason field at all. Which version plays out likely comes down to the next few weeks and how his team responds under pressure. So here's the real debate. Was NASCAR right to enforce this penalty to the letter of the rule, even after Wallace tried to give the position back? Or is it time for officials to build in room for exactly that kind of in-race correction? Drop your take in the comments. Right call or overkill? And if you want the sharpest, most honest breakdowns in NASCAR every single week, make sure you're subscribed to SportsWire USA. We're just getting started.